When you think of gardening and growing your own food, you probably don't think about a whole set of containers sitting on concrete. You probably think of a big open field or maybe even some raised beds, but this is just as great a method for growing your own food. I've been a container gardener for a really long time, and I'll show you some of my favorite methods as well as their pros and cons. Let's get into it. First up on our list, grow bags. Grow bags are an absolute staple for container gardeners because they are wildly affordable, very flexible in their usage, and you will really struggle to overwater them. This right here is a 5-gallon bag, and this is my favorite for growing singular plants like this bell pepper right here. I also love the 15-gallon sizes where I have these potatoes growing, tomatillos, and some other goodies right there. Depending on the size, they can be as cheap as $2 or $3 a piece like this 5-gallon was. And there's not really any con other than it's just pretty much a container that happens to be made out of fabric. And I keep mine irrigated in 2 different ways. Most of mine are hooked up on drip irrigation, and I bury a soaker hose just below where the mulch is, and that does a pretty good job of irrigating them well. I've also had superb luck using grow oyas to kind of irrigate them in a more old-fashioned sense, and they work wonderful. My next favorite, and arguably the container I've been growing in for the longest, Earthboxes. Earthboxes are a type of sub-irrigated container. So there's the fill tube here that goes down to the bottom, and once this reservoir at the bottom is full, water pours out the front. This makes them impossible to overwater. A quick tour of my garden will tell you that they're an absolute favorite of mine, as I grow most things in them, from tomatoes, peppers, to tomatillos, and a whole lot more. They're not as cheap as grow bags, but they're still a really great value for their price, and they last a really long time because the plastic that they're built out of is super high quality. I would also argue they're the most beginner-friendly container gardening piece because there's no way to overwater them. They're very easy to fill up yourself, but if you want to take it to the next level, they also have this automatic watering system that goes into the tube and always makes water available to the reservoir without ever having it drip over the side. And now my third favorite container gardening system, the garden tower. The garden tower is a remarkable feat of engineering as it takes up very little space on the ground while providing an absolutely massive amount of yield. It's full of about 6 cubic feet of soil, and each of these little pockets lets you plant a separate plant. In the center is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in a container. It's a worm composting column. This means I literally never have to fertilize this thing because the worms consume food scraps, and as they travel through the soil, they deposit worm castings, which provides the nutrients that the plants need inside of it to grow. There is an aftermarket watering system that exists for the garden tower called an aquajet, which I wish I had discovered before I set mine up, but I just have some soaker hose running here around the top, as well as an adjustable emitter, and that does the job just fine for me. If you don't have drip irrigation set up though, you will be watering it every single day because it's a lot of soil and it uses a lot of water. If you're looking to get into growing your own food and you only have maybe 2 by 2 feet of space, this is the #1 system I would recommend. At almost $400, it is a pretty pricey system, but it comes with a lot of proprietary design and the materials are really, really well built. Whether or not that's worth it for you is a decision that only you can make, but I love mine and I use it prolifically. I do have a few other containers in my garden like these Earthbox root and vegetables, which are just a little bit deeper, which allow you to grow onions, garlic, and carrots in the sort, as well as some terracotta pots, which work great for flowers and things like that. I do also have these city pickers, and they work fine, but I really wouldn't recommend them. They're just a more cheaply made version of the Earthboxes, and the plastic patinas super easily, and it's more prone to cracking. The moral of the story is you don't need to own a home, you don't need to have a bunch of land, and even if you're in an apartment or a condo, you can get a few of these things and start growing your own food. If you'd like to learn more about what that process looks like, make sure you follow me and drop a comment on what you want to see next.